withholds that from us. Right? When we know, like, I probably should be punished for this, or probably should get arrested for this, or whatever. And there's times he withholds that, and he gives mercy. Sometimes us getting arrested is God having mercy on us. There's a lot of people, if they wouldn't have been arrested, they'd be dead, right? Or, going to rehab or something like that, and we can be so spitting mad, and God, where were you? He was showing you mercy. That's what he was doing. He was like, we got to get this going down a different path here. And he would give you mercy. So Proverbs 28:10, he who conceals his transgressions will not prosper. So there is something to the hiding. And that's what we're going to talk about tonight. There's something about having different things going on in our life, and then we just feel like we need to hide it. Well, certain things feel embarrassing and maybe shameful. And that's why we don't like talk about it, because it's like, well, that makes me feel a certain way. I feel icky about myself or whatever. And that's the reason that I don't want to share it. But there's other things that when you are in hiding, there's difference between maybe just standing behind something and then purposing your heart to hide. Like a little kid goes to hide and they make up their mind to hide. That's different if they just happen to be standing behind something where you couldn't see them. My grandkids do this, my kids do this, maybe your kids do the same, where they're like, let's play hide and seek. Okay, all right, let's do that. Okay, I'm going to hide in the closet, and then you count, and then you come find me. And it's like, you just tell me where you're, okay. And so you go ahead and count, and then you're like, where are you? But they're in the closet because that's where they told you were going to go, and they're kind of obvious anyway. But when you make up your mind to hide, there's something different. Like, what does it take to hide from God? Where can you go to hide from God? But there is a certain time in our life we feel like we can. We're like, we don't say it, then he don't know. And it's like, okay, if we don't act on it or whatever, then nobody will know. If I just stay away from certain people, then no one's really going to know what really happened. And so it's something about concealing it. Means you're hiding it. To conceal something means, like, let me put a blanket over this. Let me put, a bucket over this so you can't see it. I'm going to purposely hide it. If you do that, you will not prosper. Now, the word blessed means to be empowered to prosper and have success down the road. That's what the word blessed means. Now, sometimes people take that religiously, remember, especially in the Sermon on the Mount, because we really have to give it that religious oomph. So we don't say blessed, we say, blessed are the poor in spirit. For we read the Bible totally different every other place till you get to the Sermon on the Mount. And then it has to be blessed. It's blessed. And it means empowered to prosper, to have success down the road. That's what it means in the Greek. So to be empowered to prosper and have success down the road, that means that prosperity would be on us. The blessing of God, that's God's intention. He wants us to have success mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually. That's called prosperity. We always think of money right away. But it does affect our money. Your money doesn't get out of it. You prosper in your soul, you'll handle money different. That's just how it is. So prosperity will come no matter what you touch. But if you conceal transgressions, those are when we transgress, it means we had a mark we were supposed to hit and we didn't hit that. And we know it. And so now we're like, I best hide that. Shoot, I better hide that. We'll deal with it at a different time as one of the belief systems that comes with that. If we put it way back here, then we can deal with it at a different time. We'll hide it. There's an intention that we have. You won't prosper if that's your way of looking at things. Prosperity, for you to have the blessing, to have success and move down the road, it's like as long as it's concealed, no matter what you do, you can do really good things. Like I concealed all this junk under this big bucket, hid it in the back, and I'm out here doing all the right things, and for some reason I'm not prospering. Why is this happening? Because it says right there, will not prosper. We have to come out of hiding. And the most important person to come out of hiding with, right, is God. So it's not like you have to stand on a mountaintop like, well, this is what I did. I robbed a bank. And then, you don't have to do that. But we do have to come before him and pick that bucket up and say, that's what went down. And how many of you know God's always like, I know. I was waiting for you to acknowledge it and to come up out of hiding. So he who conceals his transgressions will not prosper. But if we want to prosper in all things, at all ways, at all times, so that we can turn around and be a giving human being, financially, emotionally, spiritually, mentally, whatever way that we can do that, then we can't conceal things. Shooty baroody, right? I don't go looking for something, in my life like, I don't know, I'm not prospering in this area. Let's see what I can dig up and just confess to everybody and their dog. I did that. I cussed when I was in 4th grade. I'm not doing that. But when you've hidden something. Now, there's one thing to hide a thing. There's another thing to hide yourself. To go into hiding from God. Does anybody here know what I'm talking about? Have you ever done it? It's like David in the days that he hid in the cave. He was hiding from people. But there was a certain time he was at an all-time low, and he felt like he was hiding from people, and he was hiding from God. And the prophet of God said, come out of that cave. Come out of that. Come out of hiding. Because now you've concealed who you are. Sometimes you can be in hiding, like say you have a call of God on your life, and you know it, and you're supposed to be ministering for the Lord in some capacity, in some way or whatever, but you get a job, and you're just rocking it, and you got really cool hair, and you're in a tie, and you got your briefcase, and everything. You can hide behind all of that from God. And yet here, you got this thing going on where he's like, where are you? And you're like, I'm with my CEO right now. I'm establishing this company or whatever, so you're going to have to wait. No, we go into hiding. There's things that we do that, I talked to someone recently about hiding while they're leading praise and worship. You can do something amazing and hide behind it because I'm like, if you're doing it, it's like, see how I look? I'm leading praise and worship. See how I look? I'm teaching a class. See, I'm doing okay. But you're still in hiding. You've hid yourself. We can hide ourselves, behind heroin, or we can hide ourselves leading praise. Either way, you're in hiding. Yeah? So we want to prosper in all things, at all ways, at all times. So the reason I'm bringing this up tonight is because we do a lot of self-assessment, because if you're going to come out of trauma, abuse, abusing, drugs or different things like that, or people, we have to come to a point where nothing's hidden. You just get so bluntly honest with things. It's like, there it is. All right, well, now we can move forward. But I just told you what I did. I know. Which gives us permission to move forward. You cannot move forward in hiding. Yeah? But, our belief system, I can't move forward unless it is hidden. Or I have to project an image forward so that this person, I don't want this person, I don't want you knowing all of this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create this plastic person, shove that out front, and then everyone will be, it's not amazing, not so great, but I'm really in hiding the whole time. Sometimes to come out of hiding, we have to share our emotions. And some of us are not very good at that because we know if we start talking about where we're at emotionally, shoot, we can't hide this anymore. Like you could just share a couple sentences. You're like, well, I'll just tell them this, right? Talking to somebody, I'll just tell them there's some things going on. You don't understand what's happening. And all of a sudden the emotions start coming up and you're like, oh no, I can't control this anymore. So that's why we don't even talk. We don't talk about it because we know it could come out. And I'm trying to be in hiding right now. Big reason we use drugs, porn, whatever, People will, like you take porn and they'll label somebody, you're a dirty person, you're that. No, you're hiding. You're hiding behind the storyline that plays every time you're acting out sexually. There's a storyline. There's a storyline on the video, right? And then, but it doesn't matter what storyline's presented to you. You have to figure out what part you're going to play in this story. Right? So now you're not yourself. You're like, what kind of amazing person can I be right now while I'm watching this and sexually acting out? And then after you come off that high, you're a piece of dirt. That's how you feel. And then it's like, I better hide this. Why? You were just amazing a few minutes ago. Why would you want to hide that? Why don't we share that with everybody? How amazing. You rode in on your white horse and the whole storyline that went around. Because pornography it's not real in the sense of who the person is, but your subconscious cannot tell that you're not really having sex with a person right across from you, right? That you know the storyline. It's almost like getting too involved in a movie, and maybe you're not sexually acting out, but suddenly you feel like you're one of the characters. I think it goes a little bit too far when you show up to a Star Wars movie in costume. I'm just saying you can do it for fun, but if you're doing it because now you're part of this, there are people who do that where they're like, I'm here. I am Jedi power, or whatever. I've been at movies where I've seen them. I'm like, wow, okay. If you're doing that with your buddies just to be funny or whatever, that's just having fun. You're just like, let's, go in a costume or what. But if you're doing it because you just can't wait to find out the next part of this because you're so a part of it, you were starting to take on a character. That's what happens in pornography. Or you have to be a character. So let's say, you pick a certain girl or a certain guy or whatever it is. You're drawn to that person because of whatever they're projecting, and then you have to figure out what you're going to project back as a storyline in your head. Are you a victim? Are you some amazing superhero? Are you imagining yourself as someone different than who you are because you don't like who you are? So I'm going to hide who I am, and I'm going to come forward as this amazing person. My long flowing hair, and you're acting that out. And so when you go through the whole act, then you come off of that and it's like, oh, I guess I'm back to what's real. And now I feel worse than I did before. And so now I have more stuff to conceal. Where's that bucket again that I can put everything under? So that's a lot. You get around people, and then there's a nervousness. If there's a certain thing being talked about, you can talk about the holiness of God, and that bucket will start trembling. And you're like, shut up. And, I don't want to go to church because that could tip over and everyone could suddenly, you could see the stuff. You know what I mean? And so you're not going to prosper if we work on concealing. To conceal, you actually have to change the storyline of whatever it is you put in that bucket to begin with. You have to make it less than what it was. You have to go into some type of disassociation from it, which means I ain't associating with that right now. Or you have to lie to yourself, which is denial. I know I did all that, but we're going to deny that right now. It's in a concealed compartment. Only I have the key. And then you go, God, could you just prosper me? Against the rules. It's against the rules. It says right here, he who conceals his transgressions will not prosper. So he's not going to change that up just specially for you. Is a rule. And so, but whoever confesses and turns away from his sin, it's a two-part thing. Confesses means, yeah, I'm going to admit to it. I actually participated in this. And then turns away. This is what happened. And I reject you now. I don't want to be a part of that. I'm going to turn away and walk the other way. From his sins, we'll find compassion. And in the word compassion is the word compass. Do you know where you're going? Right? You get under the compassion of God. Suddenly it's like a compass to you. You're like, I know where I'm going now. And there's not this heavy load of stuff that you're like, well, I'm trying to get to that place I'm supposed to be going and conceal all these different things. That's hard. That's a heavy weight to carry. It's like lying and then you can't forget what you said. I remember doing that with my mom. Then I'd be like, shoot, what did I tell her? I told her I was going to be there at 3, but now I don't remember if that's, And so then you have to make up a lie around the lie. And then all they have to do is question you. Are you sure about that? Because I think you told me. And you're like, well, yeah, because, yeah. Right? And your mind's trying to think of another one. Then you have to remember those in case 2 weeks from now you're questioned on that same thing again. Or mom gets more information and she says, hey, I saw your friend Lisa, and she said, and you're like, oh, snap, what did I tell her? What did Lisa say? That one thing is a lot to carry around. That's a huge project to be like, I have to control all this. Well, what if you've got a bunch of things you've concealed? You got to constantly keep them covered. Don't let anything uncover them. The wind of the Spirit blows and you're like, shoot, cover came off. It's like, cover that up. And then what if you're perpetuating lies in order to protect that so nobody sees it? Then you've got to remember the lies that you've said in order to keep that thing concealed. You're working harder that way than if you just said, this is what I've been into. Sucks. It's not right. It's damaging me, but I'm bringing it to God right now. And I actually could feel his compassion on me. And it just set my compass different. I need to be going true north. And if I'm not, I need his compassion to get the compass to line up where I go. Now I know where I'm going. So, compassion and mercy. Whew. Compassion and mercy together is going to be huge, and turns away from sins will find compassion. And then mercy, it's like, well, see, all this, I revealed this, and now I'm probably in big trouble. Ugh. No, that's when his mercy will show up. What you do deserve for doing all those things or participating, he'll withhold that from you. Or he'll give you a way to make it right. When I was a teenager, I ran out of my house and went and lived in this little trailer and didn't have anything or whatever, and saw myself through my senior year. And there was a house next to the trailer, and it was my job to go get the hired hand up for this big farm, and then I would go start milking the cows or whatever, and they'd meet me out there. And I didn't have any towels. I didn't have none of that stuff. And I took some from the house. And I remember, think about it, they're old ratty towels. So first your brain goes, they ain't gonna miss them, they're just old ratty towels. But I never asked and they weren't mine. And I remember as I touched them, my heart doing and I wasn't even born again. There was something there that was like, that ain't yours, hello. But you just continue, gotta have towels, right? And then putting them over there. And I remember then the lady who owned the farm, her and her husband, she came over to see if I needed anything or whatever. I opened the door like this wide. I'm like, yeah. You know why? Because I had her towels. How dumb is that? Over 2 towels, I can't even, I'm like, yeah, no, I'm good. No, good. Whatever. Oh, yeah, talk to you later, whatever. And then you're over 2 towels. But here's the thing. I had enough of a conscience to be bothered by it. But if I took 2 towels one time, 3 washcloths the next time, some silverware out of the drawer, they don't need it anyway. These are rich farmers. They have a huge operation. They got like 3 houses and 200 and some cows. Some of their cows are worth $40,000 a piece back in the 80s. And they trusted me to milk them, but yet I'm stealing a towel. But what if I'd added all of those different things? Then after a while, my conscience wouldn't speak to me so much. And I wouldn't shake so much taking something else. It'd be like, your measurement gets off. Once you make an excuse for something and you conceal it, after a while you're like, I'm working so hard to forget about this and put this to the side that I don't really have a measurement that tells me when I'm doing something wrong. My heart rate doesn't go up anymore. Hmm? Anyone steal a pack of gum when you were a kid? Yeah? We're like, you know, even that, it's a pack of gum, okay? we can't actually go, yes, I did that. It's okay. So if you've concealed that pack of gum and it just came out right now, mercy's coming your way. Compassion is here. You know what I'm saying? I mean, we can, but for an adult, it's still an offense. It's still sin. But for a little kid, they have to really think it through a whole lot more before they go and take it. Because a pack of gum is a big deal to them. Our measurement is already, it's not that big a deal. They're in the beginning of losing their innocence, because that's what that is. You start out innocent, you go to take something, your hand will shake. You lose your innocence, whatever. You can always go get a new phone. I'll take yours. Doesn't bother me at all. Hiding with a hard heart looks different. Then you'll reach a point, I've hid this and I've hid this and I've hid this. You know what? Now I don't care. Because this thing is so heavy for me to carry, and I can't remember who I lied to and what I did or whatever. You know what? I don't care. I don't care if I get caught. I don't even care if you see everything that I did. I'm not dealing with it. That's how hard the heart will go. Rather than if you stole that pack of gum or the little Matchbox car, and your mom says, did we pay for that? A little kid who still is in that innocence, their heart rate will go up. They'll start doing this. Well, Mom, I didn't take it. And all of a sudden lies start coming out, and you can tell because they're looking down and they're doing all these different things because they're losing their innocence in that moment if they conceal it. But if you train them to fear you, and I'm not talking about the fear of the Lord where there's an awe and respect or an awe and respect as a parent. If you train them that you're going to beat them up because they took this pack of gum, they're going to lie like dogs. Right? But if you sit down and you say, no, if you took it, you can tell me. Well, I took it. See, their innocence comes back up. Well, we're going to have to take it back. No, I don't want to. I will go with you. That would be the loving thing to do, wouldn't it? Some parents won't do that because they're too embarrassed the child took something. Get over it. And be there for your child. And so you take them in the store and whatever. Lucas has something he'd like to say. I took this. I had to do this with one of my kids. His little hand was just shaking. I took that. I'm so sorry. And sometimes a person will act mean, whatever. Then I got to talk to them. If I'm helping somebody out, talk to them like, that was kind of a poor response from them. But you did the right thing. You should feel good about what you just did. Right? But a lot of people would be, like, okay, you're forgiven. And they need to hear that. And it trains them. You don't have to conceal it. Right? But if every time you do something wrong, or it looks like you did something wrong, maybe you didn't even, you get a whooping. And a whooping's one thing, but a whooping with a whole bunch of negative, you blankety blank, kid, with the loud volume and all that kind of stuff. That ought to scare him into listening. No, that'll send him right to lies. Because what that tells him is this, wow, I'm going to have to get way better at concealing. If I'm going to do something, I know eventually I'm going to screw up, I better get way better at hiding. So the innocent little child is saying, let's play hide and seek. I'll hide under the table and you can find me, okay? Because they're innocent, right? But if you find them right away and you do that right away, then after a while, as they're growing, they'll be like, no, I got to find a better way to hide. Then they're hiding things. Then there's something that ends up happening where you actually get a rush off of whether or not you're going to get found, just like playing hide and seek. That's part of the fun of playing hide and seek. You're like, I think I found a really good spot. They're not going to find me. And sometimes they walk right by and you're like, oh, they're right. I could touch them, but I can't see where I'm at. Yeah. And there's this like rush that you get off of that. Adults will get that same rush when they're like, I stole that $50, and she didn't even know. She don't know nothing. And there's an arrogance that'll take place and make the heart wicked. It'll just harden it more and more. So this is so important when it comes to, like, say you have a story where you were traumatized. Maybe it was sexual abuse. Maybe it was you were beat up or something when you were a kid. A lot of times the brain will say, I want to talk about how horrible this thing is, but any part that I played in it, I don't want to talk about it. I'm going to conceal that. In case there's something I might be responsible for, I'm going to shove that other person way out there, and all of it's going to be on that person. I have nothing, and we'll conceal it. Some things, that's how it is. A person violated you, and there's nothing that you did wrong. Other times there are things that it's like, no, I shouldn't come back there. I shouldn't have lied about such and such. I shouldn't have put myself in that spot. And those are the things we don't want to talk about. Well, then how do you heal the first half of it, what's been done to you, if you can't acknowledge how you participated? It gets tough, doesn't it? So if we're going to heal from trauma, we have to not conceal. And then, so we have to look at it like, if I'm not going to conceal, then I have to reveal. Well, do I get on the mic and reveal it to everybody? Probably not. The Bible said, don't throw your pearls before swine, or they'll come and they'll turn on you and just trample on those, right? And they'll want to kill you. You don't just share everything. And a pearl can be something so precious that God told you, but it can also be that part of your heart where you're like, I'm actually going to take this out and reveal. I'm going to reveal how I participated. I'm going to reveal what my thoughts were. And I'm going to apologize. I am so sorry. In high school, there was this girl everybody was picking on. And when she was away from everybody, well, I think I was a sophomore. Anyways, when she was away from everybody, her and I just would sit on the sidewalk, skip lunch, talk, whatever. We were fine. But when she was in a group of people and the girls would just be picking on her, I mean, throw her down, kick her, stuff like that, I did nothing. I did nothing. I had the capability of doing something, and I did nothing. And at one point, this group, I don't know why I wanted to fit it. Why would you want to fit into a group of people who are doing something like that? Because you don't want to get hurt, or you don't want to be that person, right? So that person getting treated like a dog, I don't want to be a dog either, so I got to play it safe. So I'm not going to help save her. See, so there's no honor here. It's all about me watching my own self. And so I just back up, and whatever happened, happened. And she went through depression and all kinds of different things. Her father died probably a year later. That poor girl went through hell. But I was going through my own hell, so I couldn't feel the hell she was going through, because I was in my dog-eat-dog survival mode, right? And so later on, I get born again, and I'm at prayer. And the Lord's just dealing with different areas of my heart. And he said, you're going back to Wisconsin? Okay, yeah. Yeah, okay, Lord. I want you to go find her and tell her you're sorry. Excuse me? She probably doesn't even remember me. All these excuses start coming. She doesn't remember me. They probably moved. No, she didn't move. Same place. In fact, she ended up inheriting a home and getting married, and both her and her husband lived there or whatever. And I remember going up and knocking on her door, and I was just shaking. I was shake over a lot of things, but I could feel my heart about to reveal. See, God revealed it to me, but didn't mean I went and shared it with anybody else. I didn't even share it with my husband. I didn't say, honey, I'm going to go reveal this. And so I'm standing there, and I'm like, this is the right thing to do. And it was like, and we sat down, and I was just like, hey, she was so kind to me. Just like when we'd sit out on the sidewalk when we were in high school. This was years and years later. And I just came out and said, look, remember. And she started crying. She said, yeah, I remember that. And I said, I was wrong. I should have stood up for you. So by not standing up for you, I was just as wrong as they were. And I'm so sorry. I mean, my whole being shook. Why? Because that was a bucket that I had sealed all up, and it was underneath there, and this is good. I mean, no one's going to find out about that. That's really cool. I'm way over here in the ministry years and years later, and God's like, you got something. You got a little something, something. And I'm like, oh, that's old. That's old stuff. You don't have to worry about that. That's not even good. It's so sealed, it's not going to. And he's like, you need to deal with that. Oh. But see, he was having mercy on me by allowing me to be aware that needed to be dealt with. Because he knew where I needed to go and he wanted to prosper me, and I was against the rules. Right? And I was asking to move into something that needed the blessing, yet I was like, these things are concealed, and I ain't revealing nothing. So we have to do this by the Spirit. We don't always go, it's not like I sat down and I'm like, well, if I'm going to prosper, then I can't conceal everything. Let me write down 150 things that I did wrong and make sure I tell as many people as possible. No, that's not how it works. It's just like me. I'm tooling along, not thinking about 1982, which would have been probably 1979 or something like that when this was happening. I'm way past that, and I'm just out here doing this, and he's like, you need to go back and deal with that. Now, that was for my sake, but it was also for her sake. Because you think, well, she should be over that by now. Was she? If she was over that, she would have never cried. It set a tone in her life where a lie was spoken to her. A lie was told her that nobody cares. Nobody's going to be there for you. And she was living according to that lie. How do I know? She shared some of that with me. But when I shared this with, she was like, God told you to do this? Yeah. You know what that told her? He cares about me. You came all this way. Wow. And you didn't have to do it. Wow. And it was a reality check that, hey, the way you remember it as a kid is you saw all these people and they're over top of you and they're hitting you and they're doing all this stuff. And, maybe she didn't even see me walk away. Maybe she didn't see that. But it told her the way she remembered it, she could reframe it now. She could unpack it and reframe it. And then when she said, I remember that, she'd have more of a real memory of it. That this was wrong. There was nothing wrong with me. This was what was wrong in the wickedness of their heart. Make sense? So you go to the Lord and you say, man, look, God, I just want your compassion and your mercy on my life. Things have been hard or whatever. But I'd also say to him, is there anything that I'm concealing? Can you reveal that to me? Because for you to reveal, he has to reveal it first. Yeah? I might tell you a weird one. Because I had a weird life. But here's the truth. You guys had a weird life too. So most people have weird things in their life or whatever. I remember as a little kid finding wild kittens. And I was pretty small. And I was in the haymow of our barn. A lot of times neighbor cats would come over and they'd dig through the hay. And then you'd hear, and you'd go there, whatever. And I remember, I'm just little. And I find this kitten. And I ever grab a hold of a wild kitten? No, it's not like, oh, little Muffy. They will bite you and hold on to you. And they're like, and it's like, and I'm like, and that too, as an adult, I've had a dog bite or different things like that. You just pull your hand back and go, whoa. Even if they're hanging on yet, you just pull them off. But a kid, that's like horrifying, terrifying. I'm thinking cute kitty, and it's trying to kill me right now. It's only about this big, but it's bigger to a kid, right? And so it's got my hand, and it's biting me or whatever. And I remember I turned and started choking it to defend myself. But I was so terrified, and plus the way I was raised, I just kept choking it till it died. Okay, so I was real young. I don't know if I was 5. I don't know what age in there. But I buried that kitten in the straw in an attic area in the barn. And every time we made hay or whatever, even when I was in high school, it was like, the reality that was inside of me is, I murdered. That's how it felt. Now, some animals have to be put down and there's things and whatever, but this was me feeling like I murdered. And nobody knew. And so you carry that little kid feeling with you so that even as an adult, I'm like, I'm a murderer. You can't trust me because I murdered that kitten. I was raised in a family, deer hunting and all that. I didn't look at any of that as murdering. And here I'm a little kid, and it's biting me. It was my defense, and I was like stuck in adrenaline, and it's just little. It doesn't take much to kill a little kitten. That's not that old. Right? So this gets stuck inside of me, this concealed thing that is just like, nobody can know this. And so there were certain things that people would go after or talk about every year as I was growing past that. I felt, looking back, I felt like I don't deserve these things. Even receiving gifts and stuff, there would be this feeling inside of me like, you don't know who you're giving this to. I killed a kitten. It's a little kid way of thinking. You might have something in your life that you're stuck on. It's a sensation of something that happened when you were 5. I had a lady talked about, she got stuck feeling guilty because, lots of kids do this where you'll see ants going in or whatever, and they're carrying eggs or food to the eggs. They're moving their little nest or whatever, and then they just go, or they dig it up to try to see where the eggs are because they're curious. Right? I had a lady share that with me, that she felt like she had sinned against the ants. Now, an adult brain would be like, no, you're a curious little kid. In fact, we usually put ant killer down and take care of that. You know what I mean? As adult. But if you carry the sensation that you had when you were little into an adult, you'll actually have a false sense of guilt that you'll be carrying around that just says, yeah, you don't know me. You don't know who I'm mean. I wrecked that whole thing. And since sometimes people will have that in their mind, like they can see I killed all those babies. And it'll be there like that. I'm bringing up something that's real. A lot of people carry a false sense of guilt about smaller things like that. Then what happens is those smaller things begin to add up, and then we do something bigger when we're an adult. Something that really is like, that's not good. That really hurt that other individual. And now it just like seals the deal. See, I've always been this way. I've just been a mess all the way through. There's no help for me. And it comes from starting way back where it was concealed. To go from conceal to reveal is huge. It's huge. Owning behavior is huge. Now, here's what I watch people do that are enablers or codependent. They'll own their behavior and everyone else's. They'll be like, well, he probably felt that way toward me and hit me when I was a kid because I was like that. Okay, so now you're going to own your behavior and you're going to own his somehow. You're totally the blame for all of this. To own your behavior, you got to figure out, what was my part? That's the only thing you own. You don't own someone else's part. You own the part that you participated. Does that make sense? But if you get stuck in owning everyone else's, it's like you can't even be around people, because anything that happens, you're going to take their blame, your blame, everybody's blame, and that's such a heavy load. There's some people that will attempt suicide over that. It just takes them, they plummet down, and they're like, I just feel guilty for so much stuff. And there's a sensation that goes with the feeling of guilt. Think about it. When you were very innocent, If you was to take something that, off your father's dresser or something like that, you'd be aware in your innocence. There's this feeling of like, I shouldn't be doing that. There's a sensation that goes through your body. It's called your conscience. When you sear your conscience, the Bible talks about that, it's like you cut it and you scar it. So after a while, your conscience doesn't necessarily feel so bad. Just like some of the gangster young people that I helped in Colorado, not long after the Columbine shooting. So I come in as a counselor, and they bring in different youth or whatever. Some of these homies were going by with their, blowguns and just shooting those long, like needles almost. And they were just shooting into people as they would drive by and laughing. They thought it was so funny. Little kids, boom, and they'd all of a sudden hit the ground, some grandma. And they thought it was funny. They didn't see anything wrong with it because they had lost enough of their innocence and they concealed so much that after a while they're like, I can't. Just let it all go. And now I don't feel anything about anything. I can do whatever and I actually don't feel. It's a dangerous spot to be, isn't it? Dangerous spot to be in. But just taking it back to if you lied, what's the picture that we have if we go to reveal the fact that we lied? What's going to be the prediction? Anybody? Shame? Mm-hmm. What else? Rejection? Fear of punishment? Fear the person's going to look at you different now, and now you're just labeled, you're done because you lied. And that's a weakness in a lot of people. When people do try to reveal things, they kind of put you in a judgment spot. Right? People will come up to me, and so easy, they'll be like, I stabbed my sister when I was growing up, and I was 16, and I stabbed her right in the chest, and she almost died and whatever, and I'm like, What else? Well, this and this and this. Well, all right. Thank you for revealing that. It can be that simple. But for the person sharing it, they need to get it out. It's like stuck in this thing, and they got to pull it so hard to get it out. But once you reveal one thing, it's okay to reveal the second and the third, and suddenly you feel cleaner as a person. Well, what did you do about all that? You didn't have to do anything in that moment. You just reveal it so forgiveness can come over it. So what does the word forgive mean? It means a great sending away. Of what? The power that's on that sin. So the power that was on the sin as I was growing up with different things, I'm hiding it. That means that power gets to sit on me. In me and on me. Yeah, but that was a long time ago, and I even said I was sorry. Sorry, God, I'm so sorry, God, I'm so... Yes, but my attitude was, I ain't going to let anybody know this. I have to hide I'm an evil person. Even though I said I'm sorry, I still was evil. That's how I felt about myself. So you carry that thought pattern into life. How will you prosper? Because you don't feel you deserve anything to begin with. So you won't put your faith out there to believe God for anything because, well, you're inherently evil. See that? So when you share and you want to reveal something, you got to find somebody who will just value you as a person no matter what you say. Those are not easy to find, right? God has done a work in my heart because I was able to reveal. I can sit and listen to people reveal, and it doesn't change how I feel about you at all. But if I don't reveal and feel comfortable in that, I won't be able to handle when you reveal something. This is why in church, religious churches, people who finally, they reveal something, they're like, oh, Sister so-and-so said that. Oh, my goodness. I did not know that about her. You know how people are this whole time we've been going to church with her, she has been this way. I did not know. Right? And there's this almost like I just come up above her because she revealed. You know what that tells me? You've never revealed something. Because when somebody reveals something and it comes out like that, and they're asking for forgiveness or whatever, there should be an applaud that they got that out of them. Like, oh my goodness, you just let that out. Yes! Woo! This is a victorious day. You got that off of you. You got it out. You are forgiven. There's a great sending away that just took place. Woo! Right? Instead it's most of it's like, you ever sit at a counselor? I got some stuff. I tried to reveal some stuff out with a therapist. Yeah, and it didn't work well. With this particular one, usually you should, as a therapist, you're trying to get stuff out where people can work on things or whatever. So I go and I share different things, and I knew it made her uncomfortable because stuff that happened with me ain't some little stuff, right? It isn't like I stubbed my toe and I'm bringing it out. No, it was some junk, right? And that's why I can stand up in front of you and say I was sexually abused and incested and molested, raped, and it doesn't bother me 1 ounce to say that. I don't care where I am. I could be talking to the President of the United States because it's been revealed and it's been healed. So now I can remember that it happened, but I don't live in it anymore. It doesn't take up space, time, and energy in my brain. I can recall it, but I don't relive it. So then what ends up happening is as I'm revealing, this therapist is getting uncomfortable, and I can tell because her body, I'm all about body language, started doing this as she's sitting in the chair. And her writing, suddenly she pulled her paper closer to her and wouldn't give me eye contact. I was done right there. I'm like, I ain't telling you nothing. Because if you can't reveal, you're not going to understand when I reveal. That means you're not real. You ever go to somebody who you know you're like, that person's not really real. They're in their professional face. That's what's going on. They're in that, and I'll document this and sit there in their typewriter and, do the whole thing. But they're not engaged with any form of empathy because they don't know what it's like to reveal and be healed. They're just looking at a book and trying to put you into that book like, the book says you probably should do this and this. And that's where the answers are coming from. But if you meet with somebody who's a revealer and they've been healed, they go, yeah, me too. That is yes. I'm so glad you shared that with me. Woo! Then you come out of hiding. Now, and there's a culture that calls it, in old Mexico, they call it saving face. I don't know what we call it here in Minnesota, besides hiding. Lying like dogs. I mean, I don't know what we call it, but they call it saving face, where, there's all this stuff that needs to be revealed or whatever, and you're like, what? Oh, praise God, no, everything's wonderful. And it's just like, see, I saved my face. Because shame and pride get war right here. And so you have to override it with something fake while you're saving so no one can see the shame and the pride that's there. Praise God. Praise God. It's so good. So there's something to that. Yeah. So there's a difference between, I've had people, because I've spoken to jails for years, 5 different jails and a couple prisons where, I really enjoyed talking to people who are just bluntly honest. Like they'll sit down and they'll be like, yeah, no, I got caught doing this. This is what happened. I know I wasn't supposed to be there, but this, and you're like, okay, all right, so what do you need prayer for? And we just go right there. It's very calm. It's very we just go right there. But when you sit with somebody, you're like, you want me to pull this out of you? And you just kind of come kicking and squalling and no, I'm not going to do that. You got to be ready to reveal or you're not going to heal. So other people will share just enough, like in counseling. If you go to counseling and you share just enough to be dangerous, but not enough for the person to be able to help you. I was molested when I was a kid. Okay, well, let's talk about that. And you talk all the way around it, but you won't talk about it. you're not ready to heal because you're not ready to reveal. Right? So here's what it says. He who conceals his transgressions will not prosper, but whoever confesses and turns away from his sins will find compassion and mercy. Blessed and favored by God is the man who fears sin and its consequence at all time. What that means is not a fear like I'm afraid of it. It's more like I respect that. I respect that, if I do this, there's going to be a consequence. I have a respect for how this works. So I think that's pretty cool that follows right in behind. Then it says, but he who hardens his heart is determined to sin. Where you shut the valve off and you're like, I ain't revealing nothing. I don't care if I heal or not. You just go, You're determined. You got a plan. Eventually, you're just going to go do something cray-cray. Right? That's what's going to happen. But he who hardens his heart and is determined to sin will fall into disaster. Disaster isn't like, I tripped and I stubbed my toe or whatever. I mean, disaster is like you've been leveled. You don't even know which way to turn. This is disastrous. Interesting, huh? This is the Amplified. It's breaking down in Hebrew what the original language means. Blessed and favored by God is the man who fears sin and its consequence at all times. But he who hardens his heart and is determined to sin will fall into disaster. And you're like, sometimes it's like, I didn't sin, someone sinned against me. Yeah, but you're hiding that. Yeah, but I didn't do anything. Yeah, but they did something to you. How are you going to heal unless you reveal? I don't like talking about it. You also won't heal. I've had so many vets or people who've had real intense, most of the time it's guys who'll say, you don't want to open that can, or you don't want to see those demons, is another one. I'm like, actually, I do. Because it's my job to come alongside of you and with you and kick the butt of those demons so they get out of your life. So why wouldn't you let that out? Right? You don't want to see me all up in that thought. Because sometimes we feel like we're going to get triggered and then we don't know what we're going to respond like. Because we know that when everything's concealed, if it start getting kind of like revelation to us and we're home by ourselves, we implode on ourselves or on our spouse or somebody else because this thing is really eating at us. And so I don't want to tell you about it because I could become that person that I am at home that I am now trying to conceal. I'd rather have you say, when this comes up and I get triggered, I just rip people's heads off. I mean, I cannot control myself. Okay, so now we know what we're working with. Why can't it be that simple? Sometimes it's because we were raised in church where that's not allowed. And we all come, their Bible holding a certain way, and everyone has to sit a certain way, and you have to sit up and do the whole, And so that basically says, ain't no revealing happening here. Well, then is there anybody who ever repents? Because repentance means you need to get new information. Then you look at the thing, regret the old way, and you go, you know what, this needs to change. I got to talk to somebody about this. This is what happened to me, and this is what it's doing in my heart. Could you pray with me, Mary? Could you pray with me? Absolutely. But the first twinge of, almost like, well, maybe that's something you should share with Pastor. There's that thing that's like, now I'm starting to feel I'm a little bit uppity for what you just revealed. And actually, I don't want to hear about that. Then that person is not a revealer. They know nothing about healing because they haven't done it themselves. So if you go, but I don't trust people. I'm not going to reveal. I'm not going to trust. Well, that's the test. To see if you can see the compassion and the mercy coming off that person. That's the love of God inside of them. Where they're not going to think any different about you and you know it. And you're like, now there's the real thing. I can say this and I'll be okay. I can say this and they're not going to tell everybody else. And I can say this and it'd be brought down to really what it is. Hey, you were a little kid. The cat bit you. You didn't know. You didn't murder. But even if it looked like that, you're forgiven. You're forgiven. I actually had a fear as a little kid that my brother, he'd like to go in where the straw was and whatever, because the straw was there for insulation above this one area in the barn. And nobody really was supposed to go in there. That's why I put the cat in there. And I was like, he's near there. He's going to go in there. He's going to find the bones. And then he's going to say, why is there a cat dead in there? And then everyone's going to know I was a murderer. Lots of people carry stuff like that around. So even that might seem silly to one person, but it wasn't silly to me. I had to reveal that. I had to bring it out to the light. I had to expose it and be like, that's what I felt. And so I can't rearrange how I feel or reframe something if I don't bring it out to the place of this is what's real. I'm not going to conceal this. We're going to reveal this, and I'm going to do it in the most real way that I can. Okay, so let's put a real plan around that. Oh, thank God, finally I'm going to get some relief. So, you ever have a mentor or somebody, peer specialist, friend, grandma, that knows you've been using or there's something off or whatever, and they ask you a question and you escape? Are you doing okay? Escape. And then you find a way to just kind of back out of that. No, Grandma, I'm okay. And then you escape because you don't want to reveal what's really going on. Rather than having the relationship that says, no, I'm struggling some, but I'm reaching out for help, Grandma. I've been talking to my mentor, and I got a plan for this. Right? The more you run and escape, the more people don't trust you, the more they're like, what are you doing? And they have that feeling almost like, and you turn around and they're like, they're coming after me. Yeah, because they love you. But you also aren't revealing anything, so that's making them trust you less. Rather than saying, here's how it is. I need help. I need help dealing with this emotional part. I need help doing this. And so then what we do to make sure also that things don't get revealed is you just put a drug over it. It's like, man, that thing, if I really wanted to, I could use that cat incident to smoke pot. Like that thing gives me anxiety, so that's why I smoke pot. Wouldn't it be better just to reveal it and work through it? So the first thing we'll say is, I have nobody to do that with. Because we believe that, we will never find somebody to do that with. Instead of saying, God, show me who I can do this with. And let's talk about it. See, it's different. So anybody who's in the escape and they're on the run, and people can feel that you're on the run, you're like, what's really going on? So they start setting up boundaries because they're like, I don't know if I can trust what's happening, because every time we turn around, they're like running. What's happening? What's the secret? What are we running from? Rather than running to people, or even if you know you can't, someone's really not that safe, but they do care about you. Sometimes we'll have an auntie or something like, what are you doing? But you're like, yeah, I don't think I can tell you what I'm doing. But you better find somebody and tell that auntie, look, just pray for me. I need some help, and I'm going to go get it. You're still revealing. You're still saying, I need this. But a drug will make you, or alcohol will make you, and even porn will make you feel this grandiose feeling like, what? There's nothing going on. We're just partying. What? I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what you're talking about. Now I'm lying on top of hiding. It's a lot of work to hide all your life. It's exhausting. I thought it was more exhausting to be able to share, and I remember I went to this one counseling situation, and I was like, I'm just going to tell them a little bit because they're not going to be able to handle it. And I mean, I started with a little bit, and it just started like almost like I just went, "Wah." Then I was like, oh, sorry about that. Like, you're going to retract it back. Let me get the chunks over here. Put that back in my, once it's out, right? And so that's why you got to make sure it's a safe place. But it was weird. It was like, and I do use this as an illustration, it's like if there's anything I hate about the flu is the churning. It's the churning where you feel like you got to throw up, and you're in that like, oh man, I'm not going to do it. I'm not throwing up. You drink water, and then it's all sloshing, and you're like, and you lay real still, and you curl up. You can do all of that, but your body is saying there's something in there that's toxic. It's going to come out one end or the other. So you better posse up, because it needs to come out one end or the other to get out of you. But we do this with emotional stuff where we're just like, we're like churning. Why did I come to church tonight? They're talking about, it's so close to my pain. And then we'll get up and we pace and we do all this stuff, or we'll find, I got to go to the bathroom 15 times. You never go that much in one day all your life. But you got to go because you're churning and you just know something could come out. And you've been working really hard to hide it or conceal it. And now you're in this moment where it's suffering to come to Hope Dealers. Because if I talk about something, the churning starts. I hate the churning feeling. So here's what I do. If flu tries to attack me, I take authority over it. But if there's a churning and I know something's got to come out, I ain't waiting for the other end. I stick my finger down my throat. I got work I got to do. And I'm like, I feel so much better. All that toxin, all that bile, all the stuff that your body's like, there's something in here, get out of me. And then I just go back to work. It's quick and it's over. But you can spend half a day churning. And you're really saying, don't let it out. Don't let the toxins out. Rather than saying, you get out of my body in the name of Jesus. I don't care what orifice you have to use, but you're coming out. It's the same thing emotionally. It's a blunt little thing, but little picture. But the thing is, if you find yourself churning emotionally, there's a toxin in there. People don't churn unless there's something toxic that's got to come out. But many times we'll also have what's called a life command. A life command is where you are commanded within yourself. You made a vow to yourself. Someone made a vow over you or said to you, you can never share this. So you can be stuck churning for years. I really want to talk about what happened in fourth grade when I'm 30 years old, and I just got to stay away from people who remind me of it, because then it makes me feel like throwing up, and I get all these symptoms. And actually, your body will get physically sick when you hold in emotional wounds like that. Ulcers show up, digestive problems, headaches, really tight muscles, all that kind of muscle spasms. I'm hungry. No, I'm not. I can't even tell. Throwing up just randomly. And you go to the ER and they're like, you're fine. No, you're not fine. You're toxic with something. And as soon as you get that out, you reveal it. You say, I'm not going to conceal that anymore. I'm dealing with it. And all of a sudden there's a sense of relief. Now, how many of you know when you throw up, it takes every muscle that you don't normally use? That's why you get sore the next day. You're like, it's the same thing with emotions. There's areas you've so denied and concealed and all of that when this toxin comes out, it's almost like I'm using everything I've never used before. And it comes out, and you'll feel almost exhausted for a couple weeks after that, because you've been holding it for years, and it just came out. And you'll sleep and sleep. You're like, I don't know why I'm so tired. Because your subconscious is like, thank you. That was a math problem I was trying to solve. 2 + 2 = what? That's how your brain goes. Your subconscious will work on solving problems 24 hours a day, and you can say, stop it, I'm not going to think about it, but it's its job to keep you safe. So whatever you don't have resolved, it's working on. So you get something brought to closure, suddenly, I just feel at peace. Wow. That's when you get the best rest. because you got it out and now you're working on it. Amen? Let's read this one more time. He who conceals his transgressions will not prosper, but whoever confesses and turns away from his sins will find compassion and mercy, or sins against us, whatever it is we're carrying. We participated or someone did it to us. Blessed means empowered to prosper and have success down the road, and favored by God. Favor there means grace. By God is the man who fears or has a respect for sin and its consequence at all times. But he who hardens his heart and is determined to sin will fall into disaster. It'll become disastrous. So, now, the little tiny words at the bottom of this page, that disclosure that I didn't give to begin with, is now it's too late. Once you know, you can't not know. Now your brain has logged the fact that you need to reveal something. So you can try this. You'll be like, I ain't revealing nothing. And leave here, and I'm sorry, you might not have a good night's sleep for a couple weeks. Until you talk to God about it, or somebody safe, or both. It has to be done, or you're going to start churning. The toxin's been there the whole time, and now your subconscious, your whole body has recognized, like, I got some stuff. Oh, shoot, now I'm going to have to talk about it. So then it starts kicking in all the ways that you cannot bring it up. Just like, how do I not throw up? How do you not have diarrhea? Right? It's just be like, you just go ahead and hold that. You don't need to reveal that. You just hold it as long as, honey, she coming out. And so it would be better to have a plan up until that point. See, this is what's going to make you remember it, diarrhea and vomit. And so you have a plan up until that point, right? That says, I don't want this happening in my clothes. I'm going to get to the bathroom in time. There might be something. And I'm going to sit there as long as I have to till it all comes out. It's the same thing with toxic emotions. But we just want to do the little dabble, do you? Hey, I mentioned to Mary that, I did some things I probably shouldn't do, but, just pray for me. And then you walk off. You are still, now you're churning and you're carrying this. That's like saying, I have to go to the bathroom. I gotta go. And she says it's over there. I'm like, I know, but I don't want to go in there. But, okay, you can wait if you want to, but it's going to come out. Just saying. It's the same thing with emotional stuff. So where we avoid is the places that cause the churning. Well, yeah, because it's triggering me. No, it's making you aware that you're toxic. So we'll go to church and all of a sudden, snap, they made me, she had to speak on that. So then I won't see her for 3 weeks. Because you're trying to hold it. Have fun with that. I'm just saying, have fun with that. And but I can tell you what, when everything that you've been carrying around and concealing comes forward and you're able to say, God, here's the real me. Love the real me. With everything that's happened to me and with all that I've been through, just love the real me. And he said, that's who I've loved the whole time. That's who I died for, is the real you. I don't know this other fake it till you make it person. I just want to know you. Let's stand. So I'm just going to ask some questions, and you just think about it. When was the last time something came up and you knew you needed to reveal it, and you took that to God? And you took it to him more than just like, sorry about that, God. I mean, that counts for something, but that doesn't get the toxin out. Just sorry. Sorry about that, God. I don't have to think about it. And he says, hey, let's sit down and let's reason together about this. And you're like, no, I'm good. I just said I was sorry, right? So I'm forgiven, right? Right? That's what we do. He wants to go over in a thorough way to bring healing. When was the last time we did something like that? Do you have someone in your life that you can sit and say anything to? Not someone who's like, like you're smoking pot and they're smoking, and you're like, yeah, I get where you're coming from, man. That's not going to help you. They're toxic too. So that's two people like having the flu, and you're not going to get anywhere. So you need to get somewhere healthy and be with a person who realizes you need healing. They're not your answer. God's your answer, but they'll help take you to where he is. And sometimes we just need to know we're not crazy. Think about it when you have to throw up. That moment before you do, there's a crazy sensation that goes through your body. Like, I'm going to commit to it. No, I'm not. And your whole body is like, you feel crazy. That's what happens before the toxins come out. You'll just be like, I don't think I can, I don't know. And sometimes guys get really mad, ticked off. They kick something, whatever, because that's their main emotion, right? And women will just start crying, and sometimes we don't even make sense. Because it's trying to come out. We're like, yes. And people are like, I don't know what she's saying. That's okay. Because that's the sensation of like, it's about to come out, it's about to come out. The church should be in a spot where we go, let me hold you. You throw up on me, it's okay. It's okay. I know how to clean up vomit. It's okay. Hallelujah. So, Father, we just pray for revelation knowledge to come in and on this group of people and those watching online and those who will see this online in the future. That we don't fear the reveal. Forgive us for fearing the reveal. We don't want to be embarrassed by puking something out. We don't want to, it didn't go in pretty, and we know it's not going to come out pretty. And so, God, that shame, that factor that just feels horrible, forgive us for fearing that. Cause it to come out in the right place, in the right setting, at the right time. Healed, revealed, no more conceal. In the mighty name of Jesus. Amen. So now it looks like Kim Wessel will be here next week. We have some flyers here for anybody who's wanting to check that out. She is an RN that will be coming in to deal with what smoking does and what vaping does. And there's a belief system that vaping is safer than smoking, and I'll tell you right now, it's not. We need to hear about this. But now, if right away you're like, shoot, I do that. Escape. Why are you running? Get back and just listen and then make your choices. Right? Why do we run first and be like, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. No, come next week and bring some people with. It's 7 p.m. Hope Dealers Night, okay? Also want to remind you to check the calendars out there, because as we get closer to Christmas, we're not having a Saturday night service on Christmas Eve, but we're doing something the Friday night, the night before, with chili and chips and pie, and then we're going to come up here and have a time of worship. That way, you can be with your family on Christmas Eve. Does that sound good? But there's other things out there that are coming. But please come up, take a flyer, invite some people, post it somewhere, or just take a picture of it and send it to some friends. Like, let's go check this out and see what this chick has to say. All right? You are blessed and highly favored.